Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. Our guest today began investing in multifamily real estate in 2016 and owns 2 apartment complexes totaling 80 units. He is a Marine Corps veteran and works as a software developer in the Washington, D.C. area. Jason Stubblefield joins us today. Jason, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks for having me, man. Glad to connect with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and thank you for your service.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So to kick things off, do you want to tell us about your real estate goals? Like, what are your goals right now in what you want to accomplish?
Yeah, so they've recently been changing. At the start of the new year, I kind of had a goal, and then I went through and revised it a little bit. So right now, I wanted to get to 20 million in assets under control. That's the goal for right now, which is a big leap from where I'm currently at. But I like setting big goals, so it gives me something to look forward to, even if I don't hit them.
Yeah, for sure. So where did that 20 million come from? Did you just pick 20 million because it's a good number, or yeah?
No, my original goal was about 10, and
Okay.
it was about 10 million for the year. And I was like, you know what, this isn't big enough. Let me go ahead and stretch out. So let me go for 20.
Okay, cool. I like it. You have to just double your goals. That's great.
Yeah.
And so does that 20 million, what does that equate to for you in terms of properties you're buying? Is there a certain number of units that you want to acquire in that? Like, what does that look like?
There really isn't a unit account for that. It's mainly about the total of value and the properties that I own. But what I was looking at is just trying to get into some bigger deals. And with doing that, with that $20 million goal, or 20 million in assets under control, then that's going to force me to push for the bigger stuff and start looking into larger communities instead of where I've been at.
Yeah. So what does that look like going from your 2 buildings now? You've got about 80 units. What do you have to do to prep yourself to go after the bigger deals? How does that change your operation?
So really growing an investor base, growing in broker relationships. So I spent the last week down in Tennessee just networking with brokers, trying to get face-to-face time so that they know who I am and I'm not just an email. And I
Yeah.
found that process was really helpful. The brokers gave me good feedback, said, we're glad that we met you. At one point, there were a couple of brokers, they were just sitting around brainstorming about potential deals that I could buy. And, I'm listening to the conversation, I'm like, this is awesome. But it forces me to do things like that, to grow the business, as well as build my own personal systems so that I can grow and expand the business.
Yeah. And do you have anything you do maybe daily or weekly to kind of keep that goal and keep you hungry?
Yes. So I'm a Miracle Morning guy. I don't
Okay.
know if your audience is familiar with that, but Hal Elrod's book, I do that religiously every morning. Okay, I won't say every morning, but I try to get it in at least 6 days a week,
Yeah.
and also time block. So I still have a W-2 job, a software developer, so I have to stick to strict time blocks to get the business daily functions done.
Yeah. And do you think having that your W-2 job, do you think that's made you a lot better in your property business?
I
Like
do
in terms of
definitely.
your, yeah.
Yeah, definitely when it comes to the analytics, right? So just digging deep, because software development, you have to pay attention to detail a lot with that. So I definitely do use that. And just far as the systems with building the business goes, because I have a restricted amount of time, it forces me to try to focus on, hey, what's the most important task that I can tackle right now, and let me throw everything I have into that in this time block so I can do my W-2 job the rest of the day.
Yeah, for sure. And how long ago did you start doing the Miracle Mornings?
Ooh, I'm not even sure. It's probably at least 2.5, 3 years, something like
Okay.
that.
And have you noticed a big difference between when you started doing that and what you've been able to do?
I wouldn't say a huge difference because
Yeah.
I'm a runner, so I was already that's part of my morning ritual anyway. Was already to get up and get the exercises, but I started putting other things around it. But
Mm.
I do think that I see benefit as far as keeping me focused on where I want to go, focus on my goal, and making sure that I start the day in a good state of mind, so that regardless of what happens throughout the day, I at least have that start. And I've recently gotten into some other things like meditation for into the day, right? To just taking that 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, and just resetting myself so that I don't get too flustered in whatever's going on.
Yeah, for sure. A bunch of guys have mentioned the meditation. So I guess,
I thought it was weird when I first
yeah,
got started, right? I was like, "What am I doing?" But I'm finally starting to come around to getting some of it.
yeah. So a deal's falling apart. You just take a couple minutes, you do your thing, and then you're a new man after.
Potentially, yeah, right? Like, yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
So you've got your two buildings right now. Is there one of those deals that stands out in terms of you propelling you forward? Like, which one would you say was the most influential for you?
Probably the first,
Okay.
and that's because that deal gave me confidence that it could be done. That was the first time where I took a complete just idea out of my head. I mean, it wasn't anything brand new, but
Yeah.
um, it was a very distressed property when I bought it, and then to be able to see it turn around to where it is now just gave me confidence. Like, hey, I can do this. Hey, I'm in the game now. It's not something that I've just read about or talked about.
Yeah. So tell us about the deal. What kind of property was it?
Yeah, so this was 34 unit property. When I bought it, it was highly distressed. It was old. It was built in 1950. It had barely had any updates to it. It was 50% vacant.
Wow.
It had a tenant base where that you can just imagine the type of tenants who want to stay in a building that hasn't had any updates to it. And it was ran by the owner. He was the owner slash property manager. He didn't really take care of it. The strategy was he put a 10-year loan on the property and he was just going to pay it off. And when I bought this property, he was probably about 8 or 9 years in, if it wasn't completely paid off. So he did his strategy, but the problem with that was all the cash flow of the property had to go into paying down the loan, and he didn't have anything to put back into the property. So the tenants didn't get repairs done. I mean, it's just the bare minimum, right? He did
Yeah.
what was necessary, but nothing as far as aesthetics or really taking care of his tenant base.
Yeah. And how did you find the deal? Was it through a broker? Was it you going directly to the seller?
It was not. So this one was on the market with a residential agent, and
Ah,
it had
okay.
it had been there for a while. And I saw the property and just kind of glossed over it. This is too big. I wasn't looking for it at the time. I was looking at buying a couple of fourplexes, but that ended up not working out. And I said, hey, let me just give this agent a call to see if they're, see what she has to say. So we ended up having a conversation, and once she told me everything, I remember just being excited. I was like, wow, this is like a great opportunity, and went forward from there.
Nice. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your mindset, because you said you were looking at fourplexes. Like, what made that light kind of flash in your head saying multifamily might be a better option?
Yes. So I read a book. It's actually a book from Bigger Pockets, Brandon Turner. I can't remember the name because it's got really long names to the books that they put out. But anyways, with this book, there was a section in there that went through plans. And I never had a plan. I was just kind of, all right, I need to buy property. I need to buy real estate because that's what I'm supposed to do. But I didn't really work backwards and say, what is it going to take? And when I did that, I was like, wow, this is either going to take a really long time doing single families the way I'm doing, or in that book, it detailed several plans that you could choose from. One of these plans was multifamily. So that one stuck with me. I was like, okay, I can just buy, a twoplex, a fourplex, go from a 4 to 8 and go from 8 to 16, just keep on stepping up with finding these deals. And that's where I started. That's why I started looking at smaller multifamilies, which is, what I told you about with the couple of fourplexes.
Yeah.
And then I decided just to look at this 34 unit and got excited about it.
Nice. And when you first saw the property, what was the number one thing that jumped out at you about it? Was it was it the vacancy where you could bump it up? Like what really attracted you to the deal?
It supported itself. So even with being half vacant, it still had enough income coming in that it supported itself.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, well, everything else is other 50% of the building is all upside.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you who had not had any prior experience with the larger multifamily properties, and you're taking on a property with 50% vacancy, how did that affect you trying to get debt on the deal? How did you structure that deal from the debt side?
So that was a struggle.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I was doing with talking to lenders. I kind of took a single family approach to it, and I remember just getting rejected from lender after lender. I was like, wow, I'm not going to be able to close this deal because I can't find anybody to give me a loan on it.
Yeah.
Finally, what happened, a light bulb went off when I was talking with one lender, and he said to me that we don't want to give you a longer financing period on this building because we don't know if it'll be there. And I'm thinking to myself, well, where do you think it's going to go? But it made me realize that he had no idea of what my plan was. So I had everything kind of detailed, nice little package with my copy of my tax returns and, stuff about my business. But I didn't have a detailed plan or pro forma of what I was going to do and how the numbers looked. So that made that light bulb go off. And then I put together materials saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do, cost per unit. This is how I'm going to bump the rents up. This is how it's going to look after I do this. And then that's when I was able to get the financing for it. So after that, once I put that together, I didn't have any problem getting financed. And I think it may have been the next lender or couple of lenders who offered decent terms to me. With that, I was able to get 75% financing from the bank, and I got 10% financing from the seller. So I merged those two together, and that's how I went into the property.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great acquisition for you with, the bulk of it, with other people's money. So what was your game plan going in? Once you created your plan, were you looking at bumping up occupancy and then going in for some sort of refi, or what was your game plan?
Yeah, my game plan was sweet in my mind, right? So I'm going to go in. I'm going to out of the 34 units, I think it worked out to maybe it was 34 units total. He had maybe 17 occupied. I was like, all I have to do is renovate another 8-9 units, and then that'll get my occupancy up high enough where I can refinance, and I'll take some of that money and put it into the property, and then I'll just cash flow it. That was my initial plan. Reality kicked in, and that was something a little bit different. What happened was I didn't really understand economic occupancy versus physical occupancy. And so that was a rude awakening when I first took it over. It's like, hey, this money isn't here. Couple that with tenants left. So once I started renovating units, my 17 went down to about 12. And so I had to throw my initial plan out the window because I'm like, oh, I'm just going to renovate 8 units. Now 8 units only gets me just about to almost where I started from, and I still have to keep going. So that was a good lesson to learn with that. And then I just luckily the deal was good. So I still find other ways to get money to put into the deal and keep renovating and go until we get it stabilized.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to stabilize the property?
It was probably about I would say about maybe 16 months.
Okay, that's not bad. And then once you got it stabilized, did you go after different debt, or did you just keep the same debt?
Yeah, so just last month, so I forget whenever this episode airs, it'll probably be about 2 months or
Yeah.
3 months or so, but just refinanced the property for the last time.
Nice.
So I did a couple refinances, but pull that out and put something long term on it.
Nice. And like you've obviously taken out all of your initial capital because you didn't really have to put too much in there for the down payment. Then you had your rental costs.
Right. So I was able to get in with my cost plus the cost of renovations, and then I was able to get back all that capital plus some, and it still cash
Nice.
flows.
Yeah. Now you're in the gravy. That's great.
Yeah.
So how have you changed how you approach deals because of that experience with that first property? Like, how did that second deal feel compared to the first one?
So I felt like I was smarter with some of the things, like I mentioned, the economic occupancy, just understanding that because you see things on a piece of paper or rent roll or some financial statement, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to happen. So that was the biggest thing, and really just learning more about the business, the ways that numbers can be exaggerated, and so it made me more detailed as deal analysis, right? So when I look at stuff, I'm saying, okay, this seems to be true, but is it really true, and how is it going to look like when we actually go through the process? So with the first 34 units, there was what I had in my mind, and then there was reality, but part of that was how many units we can actually turn um, per month, which is something that just helped me into the second deal, saying, okay, realistically, I can't go in and say that we're going to turn this property around in 12 months, right? It's just, there's
Yeah.
no way that we could do that many units with, maybe only getting through three units in a month.
Yeah, no, for sure. And after acquiring these two properties, how has that really changed your life financially and all that stuff?
Yeah, so financially, it really helps to see this bucket of income, and it's great for me because it's really accelerated my timeline as far as being able to get out of my W-2 job, which was one of my goals, right, to be
Yeah.
completely financially independent, and it accelerates that, but it also gives me kind of like this little pile of money that I really don't have to concern myself with, right? I don't touch it. It just comes from the property, and that's nice.
Yeah. And like, where do you think you are in terms of on being on track for leaving your W-2 job?
So it changes, um, but it could happen this year, right? And so the reason that I say that it changes is because my numbers change. Me and my family are kind of looking at and maybe relocating out of the area that we are. So it's something that I could do, but I also don't want to do it too early. So I don't want to jump out there and then end up scrambling or anything like that. So I want to make sure that we get the numbers right, but definitely I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Oh, that must be pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. Because
And
a couple of years ago, that was, it was just kind of a dream and something that was nice to have. But now you can kind of look and say, hey, if I get, two, three other properties, then I really got to
yeah.
consider leaving.
Yeah. And just for somebody watching, you started investing in 2016 and we just started 2019 now. So
Mhm.
that's not very long at all.
No, that first property was December of 2016. So
Oh, wow.
right as we walked into 2017 is when it got started.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it really does accelerate it with multifamily. I think if I was doing single family, I would be a lot further away from where I'm at right now.
Yeah. No, that's a great example of, what somebody can accomplish in a short period of time if they just put their mind to it and hustle. That's great.
Absolutely.
So Jason, where can people find you if they want to reach out and learn some more about what you're doing?
Sure. So if anybody wants to reach out and connect, you can call me on my cell phone number. That number is 571-409-1525. And you can also go to my website, which is snscapitalpartners.com. And you can also email me at snscapitalpartners@gmail.com.
That's great. Well, Jason, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your real estate success with us today.
Thanks for having me, Seth. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well in your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.